Hello,
Hi,
everyone.
yes. Hi, everyone. We finally made it. There were some technical difficulties, but we're here now. And I just wanted to welcome you to Digital Bird. Rare Digital Bird. This is a series of for artists, and this is the live part of Rare Digital Bird. And we're here on Twitter. And let me just make sure that we are actually here live on Twitter. Yes, we are. We're actually on there. Okay, great. So today I actually have Monica Seggos. And Monica, if you could introduce yourself, actually tell us a little bit about what made you into the artist today. You're into the artist you are today. Let's start with that.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me, Anne Marie. Hi, I'm Monica Seggos, and I'm in Los Angeles, and I've been doing digital art since 2015. Um, you know, a lot of artists get to start to be artists from their childhood and spend their whole lives being artists. That wasn't my experience. Although I really was an artist at that time, and my dad was an artist, and my mom was an opera singer. Um, and I think the earliest memory I have of being an artist was in kindergarten. My elementary school had this competition, school-wide competition. So it went from kindergarten to sixth grade to make a poster. I don't remember what the theme was, but I remember my piece was a baseball player um, having just flung the bat and connected with the ball. And everyone put their artwork outside of the room. So in the kindergarten room, I put my piece on the wall like everybody else did. And they had, you know, the people that were judging obviously came by all and judged all the pieces. And I remember clearly, I don't remember putting it up, but I remember clearly walking outside and seeing my piece there. And I had gotten an honorable mention, like as a kindergartner. It was like so amazing that I got to have this award. And I was so proud and so thrilled. And I brought it home. And this is the other part of the memory that I will never forget. And I showed my dad, who was the artist, and he criticized it. And when you're in kindergarten, you're 5 years old, and it was really devastating, really devastating. So from then on, I was kind of like, in a way, I started to hide myself. I started to hide my creativity and drawing and everything else that I did. And I did it in secret. And every time from then on in school, I would always be part of the poster competitions. And I never, won. There was always one girl who won first place, and I would always win second or third. But I never brought anything home after that. And growing up, also, I wanted to be an artist, and I would go in my dad's studio and help him out. And then one day I was using his studio to try and paint, because that was really what I wanted to do. He was a painter and a sculptor. And I started painting something, and then he came in and wrote all over it, like all the things that I had done wrong. And it wasn't until like my senior year in high school where I finally decided, had always wanted to take art classes, but I finally decided to take art classes my senior year. And I had this, I was taking a stone sculpture class. And that was the first teacher who told me that I had talent. So from her, I really understood that I really got confirmed that I was an artist. Yet I never went to an art school. I ended up going to, a school that I got into. I was not, my grades were not, like, I was smart, but I couldn't focus. I couldn't deal with the classes. I thought they were so boring. And so the college I went to was like 7 hours away from school, and I ended up going there. And the art professor there really was terrible to me, like told me my stuff was shit, basically. And then I studied abroad in Italy, and I was working on another stone sculpture, which was a woman facing forward into the stone. So basically all you saw was the back of her coming out of the stone, or either going in or coming out. And he was so generous. He knew that I was an artist, and he took me around to where he taught in this school in Florence. He brought me into the school, showed me how they were all making their own oil paints, and everything was done from a real process of learning about art history to becoming the artists themselves. Then, when I was after college, I moved to Nantucket, and that's where my son was born. So my life was really basically revolved around raising him by myself. And when it got to the point where he was old enough, in 2012, 2011, 2012, I applied to go to art school, and I was 51. And I was accepted to the Savannah College of Art and Design for jewelry, because I went for jewelry. I didn't go for art because jewelry was something I had already started doing. And what had happened was I took a jewelry class before this, and the piece is very sculptural. And it when I was carving the wax, I was like, oh my God, this is just like stone carving, only it's wax, and it's so easy. So I was so thrilled. And the teacher basically let me do whatever I wanted to do. So I made this shackle with bones and a broken heart on it, so that it's this massive bracelet ring. And that's basically how I got in, was through jewelry. But then when I was doing the jewelry, what I had tried to do my whole life, which I didn't know how to do, was to have an artistic process, right? Basically, an artist has to sit down and understand what their artistic process is. You can't sit down and create a masterpiece. But that's what I kept trying to do my whole life: sit down and make a masterpiece without having the process. So what the jewelry masters enabled me to do was get a process. And it was so unbelievable. My professor was so unbelievable. Like, she let me resolve any question or any assignment the way I needed to do it. One assignment I did was like 100 pages of writing. It wasn't even about creating a piece. It was like, this was the answer. This was my answer. This was how I resolved the problem. And because of her, I developed the artistic process. And then my final project for the MA was actually not about jewelry. It was an installation. It was an art installation. So I became an artist through jewelry. It was like the back door, and sort of like self-taught myself how to be an installation artist. And then what happened was, so that leads me to, becoming an artist, right? So what led me to becoming a digital artist? So that I graduated in 2016, but prior to that, I actually the school enabled me to take another master's, because in 2008, I lost my business, my home, everything, in the stock market crash, the Madoff debacle, and the housing crash. I wasn't part of the stock market. I was in fashion, but it devastated the fashion industry, especially Madoff. So that's what led me to go to school. And then the SCAD enabled me to take the second master's, which was in design management. And I used my artistic practice in design management to create my own business model, my business plan, and everything else. And during that time, because I was spending so much time on the computer, I was basically doing the master's was online. So basically I had to sit there and be on the computer, and I was so frustrated because I wasn't creating art. That's when I started doing digital art. I started using apps because I wasn't digitally savvy. I'm a non-digital native. I'm now 58. So I grew up without, having all those skills that most of the people in our space has. And so I used apps. I was always finagling how to do things. There was never one app I was using. There was never one way of doing it. And then, that's when Instagram really started getting, getting traction, was when artists came on there. So I was constantly posting my digital art. I would make things every day, sometimes 2 and 3 pieces a day, and just post them on Instagram. Um, so then, so that's my story up to coming into this space and wanting to be, wanting to be a digital artist, going into Clubhouse, meeting all these people, wanting to understand NFTs, because I'd known about them since they really started, since the crypto art space started, but I was too scared to go in there because I didn't have any knowledge. But when I went to, go to these rooms in Clubhouse, that was my education, and meeting people and understanding how to navigate the space. So that brings me to where I am now.
And so you said you started doing sculpting, image, text, um, where you would include yourself in the art itself. Did you want to talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. So when so the apps I was using were all apps that I was using my fingers with. So my son said to me, "Mom, you're still being a sculptor. You're still actually creating with your hands." And then that's when I came up with that line, which is like sculpting text and image in the ether, because that's what I was doing. I wasn't actually having a physical thing in front of me, and to this day I still use my fingers. Like most people use Photoshop to delete the background, but I'm constantly cleaning up the background and using and warping, and everything is with my hand. And that's why I have Procreate, and that's where I do most of my work. So I get to squish everything and move it around and create with my hands. Um, and most of what I use now are collages. So every single piece that you see in my new work here, in the crypto art space, is every single collage is made up of tons and tons of individual pieces that I've cut out individually. And I haven't, my initial pieces were always putting myself in doing selfies, because selfies was obviously the thing to do on Instagram back in 2015 and 16. So I was doing that. I was constantly putting my selfies, instead of just doing straight selfies, I was putting myself into art pieces. And I still love those pieces. But I was working in kilobytes. So like people want megabytes now, and those were kilobytes. So they're valuable to me, and they're my history, and they're part of my archive. But I haven't actually done any more work, because I don't take as many selfies. It's just a different space right now. But I feel like somehow, because I'm a performance artist as well. I'm not just a digital artist. I'm a performance, installation, environmental, and digital. So those four types of art practice is what I do. But primarily since COVID, I've been a digital artist and learning about immersing myself in the space so that at some point it's my dream to have it all come together in one installation where everything goes together and tells one story, because I'm a storyteller. That's what I am, and I try to tell stories with my art.
Lovely. Yeah, I think it's amazing that with all the obstacles that you came against, you were able to still stay in the art world and still um, focus on your passion. So that's so great. And thank God for your instructor in college who helped you with
Yeah,
the
she
artistic
was.
process.
I think she thinks I'm crazy because I'm constantly still thanking her, like on a regular basis. And she, at this point, she doesn't even write me back. It's like, but every moment where I feel like, oh my God, look where I am now. Like, look what I'm doing, and this one, even if it's just an experience I'm having, and I'm saying to her, if it wasn't for her, like literally, I dedicated my final project to her, but I feel like it's just a constant thing I'm gonna have to do for the rest of my life, you know,
Your final
because she
project
erased,
in college?
yeah, she erased, she erased all that other stuff that happened to me before.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's huge.
Yeah.
She, she replaced it with just this generosity of spirit that could have never come from anybody else but her. So it was like the timing was okay. I'm an artist starting, I graduated at 51. So I started at 51, I mean, Grandma Moses was a lot older than me.
That's so amazing. Instructors are so important, so important. So how? Tell me more about your projects now, or let's start with async. Why don't you tell us more about async and how async complements your projects you've dropped and are dropping soon.
Yeah, I mean, async really literally is me. Um, there's there's no other platform like it, and there never will be, because this the way I see it, like when I was growing up, I was an obsessive reader, to the point of like I actually got in trouble for reading too much in school. Like I would take the time. I actually got, what was at that point was an NS in conduct, like not satisfactory, because I would go in the corner and read my book as opposed to like, interacting with other students. Um, and one of my favorite genres is with spy novels, and I was very intrigued. My brain just works that way, with cryptography and anything to do with secret messages and everything else. So when I saw this platform, which was immediately when I came into the space, I was lurking for a very, very long time in the Discord, watching everybody. I think, The Last Supper was one of the first drops. And everybody was sharing their work. And I wasn't, because I wasn't a digital native, I never used Photoshop. So it took me a long time to actually, I did, my first project was actually not um, up to par, because I didn't, but it took me doing that to understand what I had done wrong and what I wasn't seeing. So if you don't know Photoshop, you are not going to understand layers and how key the layers are to layering, and to also not flattening them and merging them. Like they all have to be separate, which I didn't know that. But it took that for me to understand what I had to do right the next time, right? So my mistake is in front of everybody, but that's fine, because that's who I was at the time. But going back to ASIC itself, um, and spies and cryptography, I felt like this was like a code breaking platform. Somehow everybody interprets it their way and uses it their way. it's not like you're on OpenSea. No offense to OpenSea, because I dropped my first one there. My first ever piece is on there, but it's more like a utilitarian platform. It's more like a store where you drop everything, you put in everything in the store. Whereas async is truly a tool that you have to find your way around and use it to express what you're trying to say and break the code for you. It's not like the code is the same for everybody, because everyone's looking at it from their artistic process. So for me, and every time I do a project, then I understand, like, oh my God, I've just broken another level of the code. So it's teaching me to understand how further I can create something even more different the next time. And the projects take me forever, because like I said, each collage, everything is a collage, but each piece is unique. And then try to leave them, try to not flatten them, and have them in, separate layers, so that when they drop, then you can see the different layers coming through. But really, truly, it's like, I used to buy those puzzle notebook. They're like puzzle game books all the time, and my favorite one was to figure out what the sentence was by giving no word, no nothing, just because I wanted to be that spy. I wanted to be the code breaker. I want to discover what it is. And I'm not even sure. I don't know, because I have never spoken to the devs, which I totally appreciate what they're doing, because they're giving the crypto art space a tool that they can use to their advantage. And the devs and just even now, which has nothing to do with my piece, but when I see what they have come, we're in a bear market, right? They did not sit down on the bear market. They've created this new the supper, which, I got one of the plates, but I haven't added to it yet. But what a way to engage the community. I mean, they didn't just sit there and say, oh my God, this is the end of us. They said, what can we do with our process, our thought process, which is very much, to me, spies and co-breaking. Like, how can we hack this and create something that people are going to get engaged with? And I've seen the engagement. It's like unbelievable. It's over the top. And like, what other platform has that? Nobody. But they're innovating. That's what they're doing on a constant basis, based on, what's going on. They're not saying we give up. They're saying, what can we do to innovate? And the innovation is encouraging other people to innovate. The music, everything else that they've added to their platform since they first got there. And it's challenging me. Right now, I feel like I'm searching for my way of expressing myself, and that's coming out through my projects that this project that's coming up, and the project before this is actually me expressing my search for how I want to express myself using this platform.
And so you have, for the full picture, you had both Between Dimensions, that async project, and the current one, 2023, Leagues Under the Sea. So why don't you tell us more about what tools, because async has several tools, so what tools you used, and also tell us about the first and the second project, and the full picture regarding that.
Okay, great. Yeah, so, as I said, I'm still trying to find my way. I'm trying to figure out, what does the metaverse mean to me? How do I express myself as an artist in the metaverse? you know, and I think it goes back to being a non-digital native. It's about how do I push my own boundaries in a way that reflects who I really am. So basically, these pieces, between dimensions is the first one. So I'm doing air, fire, water, uh, earth, and ether. So it's going to be a series of 5. And the first one, between dimensions, was about air. And it was talking about like being, so using the air to be able to be up in the air and looking down over the scope of what's going on in the space. So overlooking the space and seeing what was going on and trying to understand what the metaverse looks like. Because you know, I see people. I want to create my own world. That's basically my end goal. I want to create my own world in this crypto art space. So how do I do that? Well, I have to look around and see what's going on, right? I see what other people are doing, but this is kind of like me. This is kind of like me up in the air looking around and saying, what do I see? What do I see? And you see all those words and on the balloons and the type of balloon. And it was based on the invention of the balloon, where this Frenchman, he discovered balloon because he was doing his laundry, and they used to have fires underneath the laundry, and so he saw it billowing and he was like, oh my God. And that's how he invented the balloon. And to me, this is async. Like async represents that moment of innovation, which brings the person and the artist to be able to go up in the balloon. And you can see that the first passengers of the balloon are the 3 animals that you see in some of those pictures: the duck, the rooster, and I forget what the other one was.
Bull.
Yes. Well, no, the bull is the market. So the bull and the bear, there's like 3 animals that are together. Oh, there. Look at 307, I think.
307. Okay.
Yeah, the rooster. No, go up. Oh, sorry, down. Sorry, one more down. Sorry, no, go the other direction. Under 307.
Okay.
Okay, there. So you see those 3 animals at Versailles. That was the first launch of the balloon. And those were the animals. They put those animals in the balloon as the first passengers of the first balloon.
Oh, that's amazing.
They landed in the field and they were still all alive. So everybody was thrilled.
Oh, that's so great.
All these little messages, and there's always other things going on in my work for sure.
I love that.
But also, yeah.
And
so that's the air one.
Okay.
So what did I learn from that? I learned that it's good to have a bird's eye view of the space, you know, and that's basically what I was doing. I was like, okay, I have a bird's eye view now. Now I want to move on to the next project, and that one's this one, which is called 2023 Leagues in the Sea. Obviously based on 2000 Leagues Under the Sea, by Jules Verne. And if you just go to the top part where it shows the image, this whale with these passengers, so my idea was submarines the whole time. Like, okay, I'm going to do submarines. And so I was researching submarines, and then completely on a different task that I was looking for something else during my collage, because this project took me over 100 hours to do. And the reason it takes me that long is because I have to find all the correct elements, you know, and they're all individual, like I said. But what happened was I did all this research and found a ton of subs, and all of a sudden I was looking at something else, and there showed up that whale, the whale with the passengers underneath. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is, I mean, how could it be more perfect? It couldn't be more perfect than this whale. And so in the, as you see in there, there's passengers, and that's where I used some art from a couple of other artists in the space, using their punks. So all the passengers and all the various subs in the project are from other artists in the space. They're not mine. We have Stick, who I bought a punk from, which looks like me. It's the one with the ponytails, and you'll see that eventually. And then Brandon Walsh is another artist. I used his, and his pieces are they're corporate law. They express corporate lawlessness. Let's see if his pieces are. Let's see if I have a passenger. Okay, so the black guy with the hair, he's one of Brandon Walsh's piece. And so basically he's done his pieces are about corporate lawlessness. So his pieces, for me, represent scam artists in the space. So, you might have passengers that, and then on the left, far left, is the dachshund, and that's Acid Star, the artist Acid Star, and he made dachshund punks. So you have the dachshund punk, who to me represents, like, everybody loves animals, and there's always people with having passengers as animals, but also like a fun, just there's something fun about having the dogs in the pictures. And then the far right, the two on the far right are done by Eric Rhodes, and he created the unofficial punks and the Pepes. So these are pieces that I have bought. They weren't given to me for free. I bought them, and then, because of the CCO, I was able to use them. And I asked each of them, could I use these in the projects? And the one on the far right, I call the seasick punk, the seasick Pepe, sorry, because to me, he looks seasick, So whenever you see him in any of the images, he's the seasick one. And those are just basically us, the artists. You have, like, the dog, and then you have the scam artist, and then you have us. We're all exploring what it feels like to be in this space. And one of the reasons I did this undersea one is because we went into the bear market. So for me, the undersea is the most unexplored space on this earth, in the universe, because of how dark, cold, damp, and the fact that there's just no air. And so what I'm saying is that it feels like that to me. It feels like suffocating to be in this bear market and to try and create work that it's possible you may not sell anything. And yet at the same time, what I've learned is that the creation is really the most important thing for me. To be creating is more important than the sale. And also, I'm here because of my belief in the white papers. Like, I really feel very strongly that it's the ethos of the space is why I'm here. What crypto represents and what crypto artists are trying to say about what it means to be a crypto artist. And so, in creating my world, like, I want that same ethos. I want to be free. I want to be free to be who I am, free to have my money where I want it, and all of the things that are like the standard ethos for Bitcoin, which is, you know, the beginning of all of this, really. And I do love Ethereum for that same reason. But you know, it's a real struggle to be in this bear market when you see that, you know, someone like Sam Bankman-Fried can take down the entire space because of his greed and his manipulation and everything else with FTX. And it's just somehow, though, the artists will persevere because we're still here. And that's one. If you there's another undersea rover, which the name of it is Perseverance, which is actually the really ironic thing is this. You know, that sub that happened with the Titanic happened right after I submitted this project, and that the name of that rover is Perseverance because not just because of the space, but it was also the rover that discovered the Titanic. So it was interesting that that all happened at the same time or just after I had submitted this piece. And I think it was kind of like representative of like that you can't wreck yourself to find something that you need to prove a point or to whatever the motivation was to do something like that. And that you do have to respect your environment. Like you have to respect your environment that you're in, like whether it's underwater or whether it's in the crypto art space, respect that there are all these parameters that are actually can prevent you from doing what you want to do, because you have to work with that. You have to work with knowing that there's scam artists, there's rug pulls, there's people stealing your money, there's clearing your wallet, all of this other stuff. And yet that doesn't stop me from wanting to work with async, and that's where I look at async, because they're like the opposite of Sam Bankman-Fried. They're like providing tools to us to elevate our work and become who we want to be as artists. Like there's no other platform that's doing that. And I just feel strongly that somehow I just have to keep going and keep doing these projects. And they do take me a long time, but as I go on, there's going to be, those are the first two of the series. And then there's going to be Earth and Fire. And then Ether is going to be last, because Ether is where really, for me, the metaverse exists. So it exists in this space that doesn't exist, but exists for us in this space, exists for all of us artists. We are all creating in the ether. And nothing we're making is physical. So our imaginations can go crazy. Right now I'm using like earthly bound, concepts, but the ether, I'm hoping, will be a world that I see myself in, which probably has a lot of elements from the earth, because I'm a very much a nature person. There's not going to be any robots or, a very stark space. It's going to be something that's filled with beauty and filled with abundance in all forms. Because if I'm going to create my reality in this space, it's going to be entirely abundant. It's going to be entirely filled with all these elements that make me feel at home.
Lovely. I love the depth of meaning regarding all the elements within each of those projects, and that it is part of a full story of, let's see, air, water, earth, and fire.
Yeah.
So you have two more projects that will be coming down the pipeline.
Right. And then ether will be the last one.
Ether. Okay. Wonderful. Wow. So I guess now that we've talked about both of the projects, you do have this 2023 Leagues Under the Sea. It will be dropping when? Why don't you tell us more about that?
Oh, okay. So July 25th at 9 a.m.
9 a.m.
So,
9
yeah.
a.m.
Pacific.
Pacific time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's gonna, like last time there were 3 legendaries. There's also 3 legendaries in this one. And I think those are really fun.
Why don't
But I like, I think a lot of it's really fun. That it's just, you're not going to know what to expect until you see. You know, that's the thing about the blueprints, is that it can be used in the, typical way where you just do layers and you have one theme that with just the backgrounds. But the way I've kind of like hacked it is to always have more than one main character, main piece coming. So like I have I think 2 or 3 different subs. So, there's a chance of getting really unique pieces, which I really have tried to focus on getting as much uniqueness in there as possible.
Okay. And why don't you explain the legendary pieces a little bit more? Well, you don't have to say what they are, but explain the concept of legendary.
Okay.
Of the legendary pieces.
Yeah. So what's so great about the legendary is you create your whole collection, which is based on, layers and how that's going to generate with their generative tool that they have. So, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't have to make final pieces with them because I just give the layers and then the tool gives the buyer, a unique piece. But what's the legendaries are 3 unique pieces that have nothing to do with the elements that are in the other pieces. They complete the story in a way. They're one of ones, basically. They're 3 one of ones, and they represent a lot, like really some deep thoughts that I was having over the space and the underwater space, and kind of including, I kind of try not to make commentary about things, but this time I was like, okay, I'm pretty mad at this, what's going on, between the government and between the scam artists that are making this governmental interference happen. And so those pieces are commentary, which I normally don't make those kinds of things. But I was like, there's no way I can just sit here and act like this is just a fun piece. This is deeper than that.
It's an important message, or several
Yes.
important messages.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So July 25th, 9 a.m. California time,
California time,
PDT, on async.art. So
yep, and you can see the link is already. I have the link in. Did I put the link in my bio? If not, I better do that. I know that I've listed showed a preview, but I think now I have to put the link. So I'll put the link in my bio at the top.
Okay.
And make sure that that's open for everybody to access. And one of the things that was so wonderful about the previous project was a free drop, so that was really, really fun for me. And
I had
they all went
a couple of
they all
those.
went in one day, and you have one.
Yeah.
And what I like about those two is what I liked about that free drop was that I really felt part of the community, because there was so much so many people from the community, from the async community participating. And that was really, really, really fun for me. So they got it, my dream is, of course, to be able to have these pieces have value, in the future. But basically, I'm feeling that I'm still a beginner. I'm still an emerging artist, even though I've been in the space since 2020. These pieces are really my emerging art from this space. So trying to give people access to that. They're priced at 0.01. There's 333 pieces, and there's 3 legendaries.
Wonderful. Did you have anything else you wanted to share, just in general?
No, I mean, I hope the bear market comes back.
Or
but
we come back from the bear market.
Yeah, I mean, so the bull market, sorry. See, I've said the bear market so many times. I got confused there. No, the bull, but at the same time, I've seen a lot of really amazing things happening. And I love the new tool that the async has. And I've actually thought of a couple more ideas for projects that not necessarily using the new tool, but using some of the older tools in a different way. I haven't proposed those yet, but so what innovation comes out of these kinds of times. Innovation doesn't come when everything's going well, because it's not necessary. If everything's going well, then you're not thinking about innovation as much as these times, when all of a sudden there's these new ideas coming out of this platform. And just I so respect the ethic and the innovation and the genius. I mean, it's really genius. This space is genius. What can I say?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess we have a little time to ask a random question. So maybe if you could think of a number between 1 and 100, and then I can ask you
that many questions.
I have the internet at my fingertips, so.
Okay, 13.
Oh, lucky number 13. Okay,
yes.
Let's see here. Let's see if we can find that. 13 is, how did your parents meet?
Okay, so my dad is 100% Greek. My mom is like this wasp, white waspy person, although she did go against that by becoming an opera singer and being completely different. So she was in Paris studying opera, and my dad, who is Greek, came from Corfu, born in Athens, came from Corfu to Paris also, and he was studying architecture, and they met in Paris and fell in love, and then she got pregnant, so they came back to the United States. My dad was absolutely not welcome. He was treated very badly by my mom's family, but they got married and had 5 kids. I was the second, 4 girls and a boy. And my dad, he's passed now, and before he passed, he happened to just tell me, "Oh, you were named after this girl I was in love with." I was like, "Really?" I mean, why would you tell me that?
Wow.
But so my name is Monica Alexandra, and so Alexandra is Greek for is a Greek name, and Monica was the name of his ex-girlfriend, or a girl he was in love with. And I was like, I don't know if my mom knew that, but
Oh no. Sometimes when you're about to
so
pass, you
yeah, so
say
it's kind of
the
romantic.
interesting things. But yeah, very
Yes,
romantic
exactly.
meeting in Paris.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you
So
so
it
much.
didn't. The marriage didn't work, but.
Mm, yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Well, thank you so
Right.
much for sharing your story and telling us about your projects with Async. So everyone, if you could go to async.art and you'll find Monica's project, 2023 Leagues Under the Sea, on July 25th at 9 a.m. PDT California time. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing all the stories behind that project, and thank you for being here on Rare Digital Bird. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Anne Marie.
All
You're the
right.
best.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. Bye.
Thanks for coming.